This is Micah Clark with the American Family Association again for your Friday update that we've been doing on the Indiana General Assembly. This week, if you read my weekly email on Wednesday, you'll know that I was not a happy camper with what the Indiana Senate in particular is doing with certain bills. Let me give you a little bit of good news first before I launch on a couple other things. House Bill 1041, which protects girls' sports from unfair competition with preventing males from competing with females, has moved out of committee in the Senate Education Committee. It's on the full floor now in the Senate. I expect that will pass. The question on that bill, it's an unknown, is will they add collegiate sports as well? There's a legal reason to do this. We hope they'll do this, but we don't know. But the bill will pass in some form. I'm confident of that, and that's good news. There's also a campus free speech bill that's moving through very easily, and that should be passed very soon in the Senate, and that's a good thing as well. But the big issue this week, and if you read my email on Wednesday, you know what it is. It's the one we've dealt with almost every week, House Bill 1134. This is a bill that was intended to protect parents, protect children, and give parents more power in schools in regard to critical race theory, divisive concepts, and counseling of children for emotional issues, often called social emotional learning, but it's actually mental health counseling as well, without parental consent. The bill came over from the House with 60 votes. It was a little clunky, but it had some good things in it. We were supportive of it, hoping that the Senate would clean it up. We knew there was going to be an amendment on this in the Senate Committee on Education, and there was, but we were stunned when we saw it. The Rogers Amendment to House Bill 1134 completely guts everything we wanted. Now, I'll tell you, if you read it, it reads well, but the question you have to ask is, what's the enforcement? What happens if a school counsels a child without parental consent? What happens if a school teaches critical race theory and divisive concepts? Nothing. There's nothing in this bill that would prevent what's happening today and what parents have been complaining about for months after this bill passes in its current form, because there's no teeth in it. There's absolutely no enforcement. There's no legal standing parents can have to sue. There's no complaint process. The complaint process mentioned in the bill is that a parent can file a grievance with the Department of Education. They can do that now. That doesn't help parents. Frankly, the Department of Education supports critical race theory. We have proof of this. The Department of Education is not going to do anything. And while the bill is a policy statement that has, again, sounds good, has some good language in it, but without any enforcement, it means nothing. There's nothing in this amendment that will prevent a school from simply ignoring it. It's kind of like the abstinence law. In the 1980s, we passed a very good bill that says abstinence until marriage is the expected standard for teaching sex education. But there's no teeth in it. And you and I know schools don't teach it. They may mention it, but then they'll move right along and talk about safe sex and condoms and things like that. So there's a lesson here for Republicans. And I thought they would have learned this when we went through 3 hours of testimony on this bill. And that's simple. It's a historic lesson. Appeasement doesn't work. Every teacher who came down on that bill, and there were lots of them, I was told there was a busload of teachers from Noblesville, they all opposed the amendment. They only want this bill killed. Compromising got the Republicans nothing. They still have the same opponents. They did flip a couple of associations that they met with, School Board Association, Principal Association, Superintendent Association, but they know this bill does nothing. So this bill does not empower parents in its current form. Now, I don't think we should oppose the bill. We need a vehicle. We hope we can make it stronger. We will work until the very last day of the session to improve this bill, but it has real problems right now. The Rogers Amendment is a problem. And we need to let senators know the Rogers Amendment is a problem. The Rogers Amendment does not help parents. It does not protect children. It may sound like it protects children, but there's no enforcement to it. The Attorney General's mentioned this. Other legislators have mentioned this. And I want to thank a very courageous legislator who unfortunately is leaving this year, Dennis Cruz. Good friend, solid Christian, principled man. He voted no on the adoption of the Rogers Amendment. All the Democrats voted for the Rogers Amendment, which should tell you something. and they'll still vote against the bill on the floor. But they voted to water it down, which they want to do, but they'll vote against it on the floor. So I don't know what this amendment gains. It does simplify some things. And I will say this. The Rogers Amendment does not require teachers to post anything. It encourages the use of Canvas or online learning services, and allows a parent to request a meeting with a teacher to review a curriculum. And that's fine. We didn't want to make this bill hard on teachers in the sense of extra work. We simply want this bill to say you can't teach critical race theory and you can't counsel a child without parental consent. Now, there's an exception in there, which everybody agrees with. In the case of an emergency, if a child is in danger of abuse, of suicide, a counselor can step in, a prosecutor can step in, Child Protective Services can step in without parental consent, and that's fine. But referring a child for an abortion or for gender identity counseling or telling the child what kind of pronouns they should use is not an emergency. Parents need to know about those things. So I would encourage you to call your state senator and let them know that you do not support the Rogers Amendment, or let them know that this amendment has no teeth, it will do nothing for parents, and they need to fix this. So I know that's a little difficult because usually it's either vote yes or no, we support or oppose. I'm not opposing the bill. It is a policy statement right now, but it needs to be stronger. Parents will not be satisfied with this. I don't care what the politicians say at the end of the session. It's an election year. If they come out of there saying we protected children, it's not true. They did not protect children with the Rogers Amendment. They cleaned up a bill that needed some work, but they took out all the enforcement code, all the enforcement penalties, and the parent has no legal standing under this bill to do anything in court. So that's our concern. Short update today. Next week we'll have more committee hearings. The Senate committee will vote on the amendment, on the actual bill of 1134 on Wednesday. And so we're watching this. We're working behind the scenes. We're trying to get this improved. Pray for us and keep contacting your state legislature as we fight for families and to protect children at your Indiana State House. I'm Micah Clark. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next Friday. And if you don't get my weekly emails, sign up at our website at afain.net. We'll give you a lot of updates on different issues. And thank you for your support. Thank you for joining me today. Bye-bye.